Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would very much like to continue on with the viewer questions that you were so kind to be willing to send to me a few months back. And once again, I really apologize, very sincerely. I very much apologize to all of you for my lateness, my tardiness when it came to trying to answer the questions. But I have read through the questions and they are all brilliant, and so I want to address as many of them as possible. And so in that spirit, let me now go to the next question, which is from Michael Ivan. And so Michael, hello. It's nice to hear from you as always. And your question is, do you have a movie that you remember experiencing with your family as a child which remains special to you? That's a great question. So let's see. Experiencing a movie with my family as a child. So with that would mean therefore my mom and my dad. And so and me, and so because I'm an only child, and so it was films were very important for us. It was a very typical thing for our family to have done: go out to the movie theater or go to the VHS rental store, and that would be pretty much the frequent or weekly thing. And so we had a good set of theaters around us where we were living at the time, so it was a good selection. And there was a number of video stores that were around us at the time as well. So it was a very healthy atmosphere when it came to cinema journeys. And so my parents were very encouraging in that way. And so we would go out to the movies a lot. So I guess I could mention a number of examples here. And there are many that were very memorable to us. So let's see. I think, okay, well, I think I can mention, we saw as a family, my mom, my dad, and I, we went to the theater, and I forget the year exactly. It would have been the 80s, so maybe mid 80s or so, early mid 80s, I think. It was the film which is called Supergirl. So we saw Supergirl in the theater. This is with Helen Slater and Faye Dunaway and Peter O'Toole as Zoltar. And so this film was fascinating for me as a kid because I was very much into the world. I wasn't quite aware. I wasn't a reader of, say, comics or anything like that at the time, but I knew of Superman. I knew of Supergirl a little bit. So, but that was pretty much it. And so, as a kid, the idea of going to this film, Supergirl, was exciting for me. It was very fun. I enjoyed the film, and I still enjoy the film. There are some moments that are quite shocking for me now because they were shocking for me as a kid. There's a particular moment where Supergirl, Helen Slater's character, when she's trying to crush a rock with her bare hand, and she's unable to because of certain circumstances involving what happens to her, and she's trying to crush a rock and she's unable to, and it injures her hand to the point where she begins to bleed. That was that made me. Every time I see that scene now, I kind of chill. It's very chilling because I remember as a kid watching that. It was very disturbing for me, and I also was so taken with a lot of the storyline and the seeing Jimmy Olsen and all this was a very big thing for me. And so I enjoy the film very much, very much. And also there's the moment where Supergirl is flying, and she's just she's now discovering her powers, and she's flying, and it's just this moment where she's outside in the sun, and she's flying, and just trying out flying for the first time, in a sense. And it's such an innocent, lovely moment. And I just remember thinking, oh, I was, when I was a kid, seeing that moment, feeling so happy. I just felt happy. And now, whenever I see that moment, I feel happy, because I remember when I was a kid watching that moment and feeling happy. And so that's the type of thing that I recall watching Supergirl, the film, back then, and then years later, of course, when I revisit it. But the reason why I bring it up here, for the purpose of your question, Michael, is the movie-going experience, or going to the theater. Because, as I say, my mom and dad and I went to the theater. They took me to the theater to see Supergirl. And I forget the time of day. I don't know if it was an evening show or matinee. I forget. It could have been, I'm not sure. But we went, and we were the only ones in the theater. This was this pretty big theater. It wasn't a small theater. It was, at the time, it would have been like a largest type of theater that maybe we know nowadays. So it was a Cineplex type of place. So there were many theaters in this particular building, and they were showing what we would call, say, mainstream movies now. So it was a Cineplex type of place. It was a pretty big place, and it was a big theater, modern at the time, and we were the only ones in the theater. And that was amazing to me. I was amazing, because before then, I just remember theater going experiences with a lot of people. Sometimes it would be totally full, and just being in this darkened room and watching the movie. But that was the first time where we were the only ones, and it was weird. It was such a strange experience for me. It was funny too, and at the end, and ever since, when we would be, and this could be years later, when I was growing up, I was still living at home perhaps, and we would just be talking around the dinner table or something, and then years later, years after the fact, we would still joke about, oh, don't you remember that time we went to Supergirl and we were the only ones in the theater? And that was like a family bonding moment. We would use Supergirl, or that memory of going to Supergirl would be an opportunity for our family to bond yet again. And so Supergirl, I think, was a really very memorable one, for, as I say, for a number of reasons that I try to explain here. But then again, just returning back to the film, I think I was growing up, and I was beginning to read, other critical reviews of the film, and I was actually very surprised. I maybe understood that the film didn't get as much, positive praise as I was perhaps imagining in my mind. But I thought the film was, as I say, it was a lot of fun for me, and there's a certain power that I recognize in terms of watching a film for the first time at a fairly young age, and having that idea of spectacle and awe and wonder, and those feelings as a kid watching a film. And it's so amazing to me to watch a film now, grown up, many, 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 many years after the fact, grown up, and watch those films that I had memories of seeing as a kid. Just feeling those memories coming back. There's something very powerful about that. It's almost like a going back in time type of moment. I know it's not quite that way, but there's this sense of that in the air. And so I really value those experiences. And so in that way, I very much valued the film Supergirl, and I still do value that film very much so. There's a particular moment, too, where the Brenda Vaccaro character, she says, no, 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 ah! There's just something about that moment all the time puts a smile on my face. That's such a charming moment, and And then, of course, I mean, don't get me started on the scenes with Peter O'Toole. Those are amazing, amazing scenes, and that sort of sweater that he wore. I think it was regal, just brilliant, and just knowing Peter O'Toole. I think for me too, this was again in the early to mid '80s, perhaps, and so I wouldn't have seen a film like, say, like Lawrence of Arabia. I saw Supergirl before I saw Lawrence of Arabia, and so my perhaps this was probably maybe the first time I would see Peter O'Toole in a movie. Perhaps, I don't know. I have to think about that one, but it was one of the earliest examples. Let's put it that way. And so, and I was amazed. There was whenever he was on screen, there was something different. It was just all eyes went towards him and the aura that he projected. It was amazing. It was amazing. And so, there's a moment where he says, "I am with you." Oh, it's just, and of course, it's a very key moment, of course, in the film Supergirl. She says, Zoltar, right? But anyway, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But this is again, going back to early childhood memories and watching films with family. There are many examples, my dear friend, but that's probably one that I'll mention here. Going to the movie theater with my mother and father and watching Supergirl. Okay, so thank you so much, Michael. And I'm so sorry. How would you answer that question? I'd love to hear the response that you might give, and of course to everyone else. Please let me know how you would answer this great question. Do you have a movie that you remember experiencing with your family as a child, which remains special to you? So thank you so much, and until we meet again, please be happy. Oh, I think my dog is barking. I apologize for that. But please continue to be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great, great movies. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. I very, very much appreciate it. Thank you very much to Michael for the great question. Stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.